Hey,
Hello, hello. How are you? You guys
thanks.
okay?
How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. You guys doing all right? Anything you need to clear before we get started?
I will
Okay.
pack the boxes.
Yeah, no, okay. Sorry. I just need to fix my necklaces. I hate when they get tangled. So, first off, you should have received an email from Coach Cheryl with links to the EQ tests. Did you both get those?
Yeah.
She resent. Okay, perfect.
Yes,
And then the other thing too that we were talking about at the end of class, Rita and I were talking about at the end of class, Christine, is creating a cheat sheet um, for when you are coaching.
I'm
So
literally doing that right now.
perfect. So just grab the content. I'm gonna just show you the one that I have, if that helps. Does that help? I had shown it
Yeah.
to Rita. Hold on, let me just find it. Where did I put it? And then I started doing this when I first started, and literally it's like my safety blanket. Um,
I had one last time when I was going through our coaching thing because I mean, I was working on this one too because I feel pretty insecure about coaching today
okay.
because I really do. I think because last time we were doing ACC, it was
Mm-hmm.
very different. It wasn't nearly as in depth as what we're doing now. There's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
extra things that we're throwing into this course. And I
Mhm.
found I had a cheat sheet before, and this
Mhm.
one is so much more extensive than my old one.
Yeah, so part of what's happened is that the ICF has beefed up their expectations. And that's why this class, compared to something that you have taken before, is so different and why there's so much more. Um, Having gone through, two different set of coaching classes, because I took this course as well before I sit with you today, and what I was used to before, I agree with you. There's a lot more in like more material, more in depth, more expectations. But what I really like about it is that it still flows, right? So I'm going to just share with you in the first chapter, I think it's chapter 1, it's in the first few ones, there's the model and framework.
Mhm.
So to kind of just give you how I did it and just whatever works for you, but just so you could see it. This is like the 10 steps that we need to do, right? And so I just put that there to remind myself, like, okay, this is what I need to get down to. And then for the framework, I took out the meaning of each one, or like the intention, I should say, of each one. And I just put the questions. So when I'm in the middle of a session, say I get stuck, I get distracted, or like I don't know where the heck to go because the client is like in left field and I can't recenter myself, then I just come here, I pause, I give myself all the space in the world, right? We don't need to fill up the space because remember, as they're thinking, right, as there's silence, they're still thinking about what's going on. I then kind of pay attention to where I am in this conversation. So for me, it works just to have the questions. And then what I did, I think what I did, oh, I had a different version where on the bottom of that, I just had what the meanings were for each one of like setting the stage and like that little paragraph that was there. So for me, this kind of really helps when I'm like, well, where do I go now? Right? Does that help you?
Yeah, mine looks something like this. And I find for me, I feel like I need to have more questions in my toolbox. I need to remember
Yeah.
more questions. So mine has probably 5 or 6 questions for each one that I could kind of choose from, and I'm just
Perfect.
trying to I was madly trying to finish it up before class today because I'm always like in meetings for work
Yeah.
and I didn't get it finished, but that's okay. I'm getting close. So,
And that's okay. I mean, the reason why we do this is so that way, you guys can practice, you get some feedback, right? And also how I want you guys to really think about this is, one, you're getting real-time coaching in here, right? People pay hundreds of dollars to have this experience with you. And also, this is where I want you guys to be like a little bit more brave. Like, if you want to try something out, this is the platform to do that, because nobody's going to fault you for it, right? Like, if I know that I'm coaching somebody that I am familiar with, say a fellow coach or something like that, and I want to kind of see how it lands for me to ask a specific question, then that's where I do it. I don't usually do that with a client if I'm not sure, because I don't want to kind of have it go haywire on me. Does that make sense? So think of it that way, of like taking some chances of like, I've always wanted to try that. Let me see how that works out. So breathe. It's okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So, Christine, I just want to apologize that I froze Tuesday on you. But thank you for being available and opening your being to me. And I think it was a very valuable session to me. But I really felt that I froze and I couldn't close. But
I'm
just thank
sorry,
you
I'm
for being part.
confused. What were you, sorry, what are you saying at the very beginning of that?
I apologize because I left you hanging and I froze with our session. And I just thank you for bearing with me and helping me also through it, and making this great learning experience. I just wanted to apologize. I feel terrible about it, but
Oh,
thank you guys for being there and helping me through it.
uh, no problem. And I find too, we're supposed to be coming in here to learn. And one thing I'm really trying to move past, and because I have to coach today, and I'm coaching in front of other people, and my mindset says you have to do this perfectly as if you've done it for 10 years. And even though I haven't coached in years and years, and it was with the old competencies, and so I'm really, really bad for that, really hard on myself. And maybe Rita, maybe neither of us should be that hard on ourselves. And we should both remember that we're here to learn and not expect us to just know it all right away. And I think you did wonderfully. In fact, I had a talk with my husband last night in the hot tub about my wonderful dog training plan and everything that happened in our coaching session and how amazing it was and how I've connected to those values and I have to explore it more. I went on for like 45 minutes in there. So it was really valuable to me, even though you weren't perfect. And thank you. So it's totally fine. And I'm trying to remember that myself because I'm panicking. Why am I panicking today that I have to coach? Because I'm expecting perfection instead of progress.
Okay. And I love that you
So
have that awareness. So first of all, we are not expected to be perfect at this. The expectation is for us to be present. So you can't be perfect and present at the same time. Because being perfect means that you're in your head, making sure you're doing all the things.
it's funny you mentioned that because I thought about that today and I thought to myself, how am I going to get out of my head like that and make sure that I'm listening to her instead of trying to figure out the next move I have to make perfectly? And it's exactly what I was thinking about today. It's really great that you kind of validated that process for me, that's something I have to move past.
Yeah, and just let it go and use this platform to just really work on that for yourself. And I invite you to do that in your life, right? Like the next time you're in a meeting with somebody and you find yourself listening to, getting prepared to answer, right? Recognize it and just be present.
You know what I find? Sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done.
I wasn't done. Being present, great example. And I don't mean that as facetious. I'm just saying, like, it's okay for us to breathe, pause, have some silence, have some space. We don't have to be on top of it, right? And being present as opposed to trying to get it perfect. When we're present and you're listening to Rita and what she's saying, your question is going to come naturally. And through that, you'll have the perfection of hitting all the markers we're trying to get you to hit. Right? So if you remember anything in this course, is just like, let it go and just be present. Let go of all the expectations that you have and just really be with the other person that's on the other side. And I'm sorry, please continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were done. But I find, say, you mentioned meetings, and when I'm in meetings with people, I think that's a part of my issue is I feel very competent in those meetings. I know what I'm doing. I've done it a long time. I know the content. I know everything about it. I don't have to think about anything really. It just comes naturally. And so really what the issue is a lack of confidence in myself. And I'm supposed
Yeah.
to have that right now because I'm learning all new competencies. So
So let me ask you, how long have you been in your role in your job?
oh, years.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you're
a
expecting
long time.
so you're expecting yourself right now to have the level of mastery in this that took you years to develop there. And
Yeah.
that's really unfair.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, and I think, yeah, a lot of it's pretty, I don't worry about a lot of it, but there's some parts that I do feel concern about. And I guess I just need to feel less concern. And as we move through coaching, a new mastery will come every single time that we're coaching together, right?
Yes. And so the other thing too, exactly, 1000%. And like you just started, we're on class 5. So lots of grace, lots of grace. The other thing too that some people find beneficial is to keep the competency forms with them. So for me, the competency forms distract me, right? But the competency forms are going to be showing you like, all the markers you need to hit. And some people that supports them and being like, okay, so I need to be, have I been empathetic? Yeah. Okay. So am I coaching the person? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So see if that is something that resonates with you as well.
Do you mean the marker forms that we would
Mhm.
when oh
Yeah.
no, those forms stress me right out.
Yeah. Me too. But
I want
ironically
no
enough,
part of that.
and so for me, it does because I'm more, um, my systematic brain works differently than that. However, my husband also took this course, and without that form, he cannot coach. And I'm just like, how do you do that? Right. Like, but so that's why I was inviting you for you guys to just take a look and see if that supports you. For me, it actually doesn't. But
Hmm.
all right. So Christine, you want to know the good news is that
But
you have over an hour before you're going to coach. So you could just let it go for right now.
I knew that.
Yeah, it's okay. And I promise you, this is a partnership and we're going to get you through it and it'll be amazing. You're going to
I'll be
do great.
fine.
You'll be fine. I have all the confidence in the world. And the worst thing that happens is you pause and you're like, hold on, I got to recenter myself. And you just do that. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. Or you ask a terrible question and you're like, you know what? I didn't mean to ask that. Hold on. And then you re-ask another question.
Hmm. I wouldn't have even considered that.
Yeah. And the other thing too, how I get myself really present is remembering that if I'm coming from here and I'm thinking about my questions, how am I going to look? Are they going to like, how are they taking this? What am I saying? All that. That means I'm not coming from here. Right. And when I come from here, I don't care how I look. I don't care if I get it perfect because I'm so concerned about them getting something of value. But if you're coming from here and getting it from perfection, then it's about you and it's not about them.
I think that's part of my biggest issue. I'm so desperate for them to come away with something of value. That's what drives my need to be perfect.
Yeah. And by doing that, the catch-22 is that they actually will get less of value because you're not present.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Let's
Okay.
continue on.
Perfect. And then the only other thing I'm going to tell you guys, because this is perfect, is if you guys find yourself getting on a call, even with meetings at work, right? Like totally fair for your client to be like, okay, is there anything, like just like how I started this class, is there anything you guys need to clear before we get started? And even if they say no, it's like, great. Now let's take a second and let's just breathe and give yourself a couple of seconds to take some deep breaths. They're going to think it's for them, but you're actually doing it for you. I do it every session. Every session, that's what I do. Because, right, like we've all had crazy mornings and I'm like, okay, I just need to get with you guys. Like I'm here. This is all I have to focus on for the next 2.5 hours. So kind of like think of that stuff. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we talked about the framework. We talked about the links. Is there anything else that you guys need? Any questions before we get into today's session, which is about effective coaching? You guys need anything? Anything come up for you? Okay. So today we're going to talk about, so every class builds on the next. And in our next session, we're going to talk about, we're going to go through and talk about using emotional intelligence. And then, the class after that is building trust and rapport. So right now, what we're looking to do is before we can start developing our trust and rapport, because that comes in the conversation with asking questions, being present, right? Like affecting change for them. We first need to solidify our agreement. So last class, we talked about our client agreement and what that means regarding our contracts. This time, we're going to talk about something that you guys are already familiar with, but we're going to kind of go even more in depth with it, is your coaching session agreements. So unlike what you are probably used to, the ICF has decided to go deeper with their agreements. That is just not the, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to have? They now want it to be a little bit more robust, and we're going to get into that today. So Christine, good news. We're going to talk about one of the most important part of this whole conversation. Because if you do not know what they want to talk about, and you don't have a measure for whether or not they got there, your conversation is really, it's like trying to get somewhere without directions, trying to get somewhere without an address, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. And still like the old ways on how to do stuff, we need this agreement to know what they want to talk about, what they want to have, to go deeper, further still, to get to our outcome and then some. So the benefit of this conversation is one, that this is the foundation. Your coaching call and the success of your call is going to be really based on this. How successful you are is going to be based on how clear you get your coaching session agreement. Everything else is just, for me, icing. Like this is the cake, right? Everything else is icing. How empathetic you are, what their action plan looks like, how deep you go, right? Like based on your questions, is going to be the icing on that. So this is your foundation for all. And we're going to talk about later on in this course, like the pillars of your conversation, but this is the first pillar of it. And the number one thing that people do not do is they do not go deep enough into the agreement. And I will tell you, having gone through this class and having been a coach for a long time, this was the one area that I was like, I should have went deeper on that. I should have really gotten to the source of what they wanted. So it's something that we don't want to rush. On average, it's going to be like 5 to 10 minutes. If you're taking 15 minutes to really get them focused, then that's what you're doing. Right? It's really okay. So this is one of those things that we don't want to rush. And if you're clear that you've gotten them to where they need to go, if they're clear that there's nothing else underneath that, then you could start having a conversation where you're asking open-ended questions around this topic that they want to talk about, this area of concern. And then from there, the conversation might evolve into something different. Right? Because like if they say they want to know how to run a marathon and it's really they wanted to have health for their children, then that's going to come out of that. Does that make sense? So I hope this gives you tons of freedom to be like around just really being present and coaching your client. So let's see. So we're talking about the focus that we're going to have in the session. So the overall plan that we're going to create. The client's is trying to reach a goal, and we're going to try to get them action items or like a plan from that by engaging with them in a conversation. So if you kind of like look at it that way, you're just talking to be like, okay, what's possible? So you want to know how to run a marathon. Great. Like, where are you now and where do you want to go and how long do you want to run it in and what resources do you need, right? Like that's what we're going to go through. So again, this conversation is going to be up to the client. What they want to talk about is what they want to talk about. They're the only ones that know what they actually want to get out of this conversation today. They're the only ones that know that for this specific topic, this is where I see myself wanting to go. So we're talking from point A to point C, right? And our responsibility is just engaging them in a conversation, asking questions, right? We want to check in with them. And we do that by asking questions, right? So we're going to challenge them a little bit with what they're saying. Like, tell me a little bit more about that. How confident do you feel about that, right? Like, however that comes up, depending on the topic. And we also then want to make sure that through our questioning, we're going to keep them on track. So we're able to do that by being really clear that we know what the heck we're talking about. What's our agreement for the session, right? So, the first way on how we do that is going to be creating effective coaching session agreements. And like I said, it's just having clear communication before and during the session that we want to establish certain elements that we want to have. So it's really another way to say it. It's the focus that we're going to have in our session. So it's whatever specific topic they want to talk about or issue that's going to be the priority for them in the time allotted, right? So it should be relevant. It should be relevant to the client's overall goals, right? And it should be suitable for the time frame that we have. So most of the coaching sessions are 30 minutes. Sometimes they're 45. We want to make sure that whatever topic they're bringing up is not so big that we can't do it in the time allotted. And that's why getting clear on the agreement ensures that we're going to get to, so my goal, and I'm sure you all have the same goal, is they get to one thing that's going to make a difference for this specific topic throughout our time. I never let my client leave without at least one thing. Even if they say to me, you know, because like we have a conversation, I can't get them to really like get to like we zig and zag, and I can't get them down to like a specific action item. So at some point in my conversation, I'm like, okay, I want to just be clear. At the beginning, you said you wanted to talk about this and you wanted to have that. And I'm having a hard time figuring out like the next step of what you want to do. So are you interested in just like talking this out, or do you want to get clear as to what your next steps are? And then most, you know, sometimes you're going to be like, oh, I just really want to talk it out. Before I let them off that call, even if they want to talk it out, my last, you know, the last 5 minutes of my call or whatever, 10 minutes is going to be, okay, awesome. I'm so excited as to how, you know, the work we did here today. Now, if you had to take one step forward, what would it be? And then they would still leave with one thing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Even if they wanted to talk it through. So in order for us to do that, we need to make sure that the topic that they're interested in talking about is manageable within the time that we have. So they can't, you know, it cannot be a topic that's so large, like I want to become, you know, a better leader. And it's so broad, and that could go anywhere that we're not really clear what that looks like, right? So I guess it's, let me give an example. It's like saying, okay, I just want to be healthier. And you're like, okay, great. So what exactly does healthy look like to you? Oh, it really means that I just feel good in my body. Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about that. And you go deeper and you go deeper and you go deeper until they're like, you know what I really want though, is I really want to be able to make sure that all the foods that I'm eating are organic. Right? So like, trying to get them to go and eat all organic food there's a pathway there for you to go through. So then you're going to be like, okay, great. So you need to go to a natural health store. You need to check your labels, right? As opposed to be like, I just want to be healthy. That is so broad that we're not going to feel like we were successful at all because we don't have that definition. Any questions on that? That makes sense, right? So when we're talking about this, we need to have an expected outcome, meaning what do they hope to achieve by the end of the session? So this can range. So we have to get clarity on the particular issue. It could be that they want a plan. It could be that they want a decision. It could be that they want to prioritize tasks. It could be anything. So we need to ask questions in order for us to identify what the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. And we also will then need to have something where we can measure our success, right? So there's 4 parts to the agreement. And the 3 that are really important are going to be the session focus. What do you want to talk about? The outcome. What do you want to have? And then the measure of success. How do we know when we've achieved it? Right? And so the measure of success is going to be like, how is the client going to know that they reached it? Right? So when you think about how to ask that, it's going to be like, what do you want to have in the session? What do you want to have by the end? And then how do you know you're going to have that? And by asking those 3 questions in your language, right? Make it be yours, have it roll off your tongue, right? We give you examples of what to say, but if they don't resonate with you, take the essence of what that looks like and then ask it your way, right? And from there, once we're really clear, the next component on that is to get a deeper understanding, meaning getting really clear as to why the topic's important, why the outcome is important, what that outcome is going to look like. And we do that through questioning. And like we've always said, it's going to be open-ended questions, right? So we want to get really clear as to, is it an actionable item or is it like a feeling, right? So if they say, well, I just want to be at peace. Okay, great. Then define that for me. What does that look like for you? And then have them describe what peacefulness looks like to them. We can't assume that we know what their version is until we ask. So that's the deeper understanding. And then when we have an example of like, okay, I want to be at peace. I want to just feel peaceful. Then we ask a follow-up question of, so we're asked, okay, well, share with me what peacefulness would look like for you. And then we want to ask, okay, so you want to be peaceful. What would that be like for you to have that in your everyday life? And then have them sit with the meaning behind it for them. And when we have that, and we're really clear, and they're really clear, it gives the importance of it. It's also going to have them really start to look inside, dig deep, and it'll increase their commitment. Does that make sense? Because they're present to what that means for them. And we can validate that or quantify that, I should say, by being like, okay, on a session on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it for you to have this? And then you ask questions of like, okay, so when do you not feel peaceful? Right? Like, what is it? So what, right? We go from both sides of it. What does it look like for you? What do you have right now around this area? And when do you lose it? And then what is that like for you? What is it like for people around you when you're not peaceful, right? And get the whole world of it. So get really curious about it. And so, Christine, like when you're thinking about your coaching session today, none of that has perfection in it. All of it, right? I'm just having this moment right now and I'm not picking on you, but like, as I'm saying this to you guys, I'm like, all these questions are still around that one topic and it has nothing to do about us. And I won't be able to ask all those questions if I'm not present to what that would be like to not be peaceful. Right? So if we're quantitating it, right? Like on a scale from 1 to 10, where are you right now in peacefulness? Right? I'm at a 4. Well, where do you want to be? Well, I would really love to be at a 10. Okay, so how do we get you there? Like, how do we get you there? So like if there's 7, then you can ask a question, okay, great, you're at a 7. How do we get you closer to a 10? And if they're at a 4, then be like, tell me why you feel like you're at a 4. And get really deep in that and be like, great, so how do we get you to a 10? And we just keep asking the questions so they can get present to what's there for them. Does that make sense? So when we have, what do they want to talk about? When we have the outcome that they want, when we have the measurement of knowing that we've achieved that, and then we have that deeper understanding, we could then ask a question of like, okay, so where do you want to start? right? Like or like I said, how do we get you there? Right? And another great question is, okay, so how important is it for you to feel that way? And we want them to say what's important, why it's important. And it's not for us, but it's for them to be able to hear it. And as they tell you why it's important, they're getting clarity as to what it means for them and where they are right now. What's their truth around that, right? So I'll give you guys an example for myself. For, gosh, the past 5 years, but definitely the past 3 years, I was on my own cancer journey, and then I was a caregiver for my dad. And so for 3 years, like everything in my life, my relationships, my job, my clients, everything took a back seat to me trying to care for my dad. My mom was limited, so I stepped in. And, you know, and unfortunately my dad passed. And for those of you who have been in the shoes, you don't realize how much it's consumed your real estate in your life, right? So I've now recognized that I'm 6 months out from my dad passing. I'm not having to always have it in the back of my mind of, is my dad okay? Is my mom okay? What's going on? That I didn't recognize in the moment, even in my coaching sessions, when I'm trying to kind of get around this and plan my stuff and get my clients and live life, I didn't realize how much I was not present in my own life because I was so concerned with my dad until I got out of it. Does that resonate with you guys? Does that make sense? So that's what we're trying to get our clients to uncover. And I did not have, for me personally, I didn't have somebody ask me enough questions for me to recognize for myself how much real estate was taken up in my own life. I knew it was consuming. I just didn't get how much, to the point that like my self-care suffered. I wasn't able to think. I wasn't able to plan. Like I was completely distracted in my life. And like now that I don't have it, I realize how severe it was. Does that make sense? So when you guys are thinking about this for your client, that's the awareness you're trying to get them to get. Like, what's the impact on your life with whatever you're trying to achieve? Of having it, not having it, and where you are right now, standing where you are. Right? So when we're talking about the focus, we're talking about the measurable, the outcome, how to measure it, and to go deeper. That's what we mean. Like the impact of having it and not having it. Does that make sense? So one of the things that this chapter really talks about is if the topic is too big or too small. So I'm going to share my screen for 2 seconds, if that's okay. This should be it right here. Right? Okay. So we just talked about this first part, session. And again, you have any questions, want to add anything, please interrupt me. We talked about session focus, what specific topic or issue, expected outcome, what does the client hope to achieve, measure success, how will the client measure their success, and the deeper understanding, reflect what you heard and get confirmation to deeper the understanding. So we do this by open-ended questions. What do you want to focus on today? What specifically would you like to walk away with? How do we know we achieve this? Right? What I hear, and then deeper the understanding, get that confirmation. What I hear you want to talk about is this, and what you want to have is that by the end of the session. Is that correct? Make sure you get them to say yes. The reason for that is going to be, as they hear you say it, they're going to be thinking, is that what I really want? And then they might change it up on you. So you're giving them that opportunity to make a change on it, right? And then once we know really clear what they want to talk about, what they want to have, right? Get that confirmation. What will achieving this goal mean to you? And getting that impact that you're looking for, right? There's also, you can also ask that as, what will change for you when you've accomplished this goal? How important is it to you on a scale from 1 to 10, right? What purpose for what purpose do you want to achieve this? I don't like that question because it doesn't roll for me. And unfortunately, the way that I would say it would be a why question, which is always iffy depending on your client, but like, why is it important, right? But again, take these questions and have it be how you would say it. But when it comes to the topic being either too big or too small, they're classifying it as, oh, if it's too big of a topic, we want to chunk it down. So that means that we want to get into the details of the session's focus, right? So we want to break down a larger topic into a smaller segment of that topic that's going to be able to be something actionable for them to move forward with, right? So it's like, I want to move to Europe. Okay, great. In order for you to move to Europe, you need to make sure you have a job. You need to sell your house. You need to move. You need to pack. You need to go through all your stuff, right? Like, there's so much. So, okay, which one of that do you want to start with? And that's chunking it down. Does that make sense? So there's a good example of what that looks like, right? So I understand your overall goal is to improve your leadership skills. For today's session, is there a particular aspect of leadership you'd like to focus on? Right? Leadership is a really broad topic. Tell me, what's your focus? I want to work on communication with my team. Still really broad, right? So by the end of the session, what specific outcome would you like to achieve regarding your communication? I'd like to have a clear plan on how to address difficult conversations. Okay, that's more clear. So how do we know we successfully created this plan, right? Like, what indicators do you want to have? I'd like to have a step-by-step strategy I feel confident about. Okay, great. So what I hear you saying is that you want a strategy for tackling difficult conversations with your team, and you want to leave our session with a concrete, actionable plan. Does that resonate? Yes, that's exactly what I need, right? So the next question, in order to really go deeper then, would be, now, how important is it for you to have this? Because what's the impact on your leadership in the longer term, right? So I would probably word it as, okay, so you want to improve your relationship. You want to improve your communication. What would that mean for you and your team, further down the road? That's how I would say it, right? And they would respond, it would help me build more transparent and trusting team environment. So then you'd be like, okay, great. So how important is that to you? Well, that's really important. Great. So how do you want to get started? And then the conversation flows, right? Any questions around that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Let's say you're tackling a I don't know, what happens if neither of you recognize what you are trying to accomplish is too great for the session?
You'll know it pretty quick because the conversation, so especially if you have a 30-minute call, by 20 minutes in, you're still kind of in the discovery without an actionable item even close to being in the near future. They're still in the storytelling part of it.
So then what
right?
would you do at that point? 20 minutes is already done in the,
Mhm. Yeah, I would
then where
just
do you
be,
go from there?
then I would just be really straight, being like, look, I want to hear all about this, but I also am committed to you that you're going to leave here with one thing. So tell me right now where we stand. What would be something that would make a difference for you?
Okay.
And then lead them down that pathway. And I like to call that skillfully intruding their thought process, right? Like people are going to go on and on and on because we're such great listeners that nobody pays attention to them. Nobody's listening to them. Right. So when they finally have an ear, they're like, I'm going to tell you everything. Right. And they go back to when they're 5 years old. But like, we want to be like, okay, how is this? And a lot of times what I'll also say, depending on what they're talking about, is, okay, hold on a second. How is this relevant to your leadership skills? Is this related or is this a different topic? Right. And it's probably the only time I give an and or question. But it's leading us forward. So then I follow it up with an open question. But you'll know really quick because you're not getting anywhere in your conversation. And you know what I mean by that, right?
Yeah, I've had that happen in the past, like when we were doing it. I looked you up the other day and saw you also were at WCI.
Mhm.
And when I was at my class there, I had it happen where we're just not getting anywhere. And there was like one person who just talked and talked and talked and talked. And at first I was like, okay, what do I do with this? How do I shut this person up and get them focused again in
Yeah.
a nice but assertive way? It was probably something I struggled with the most.
Yeah. And so for me, when that happens, it's the only time I interrupt people. Right. And I do it really nicely. And I'll be like, okay, hold on a second. Wait. I want to make sure I'm really understanding. How is this related? Right? If they want to talk about their job and they're talking about their mother, right? Like, how does this relate? Tell me, let me understand. And then I always go back to the agreement. Hey, can I just ask you, how does this relate to you wanting to have better communication with your team? Redirect. And we keep redirecting that by using the agreement. And that's why it's so important. And then if the agreement is too big, you'll know and be like, okay, I want to ask. We wanted to have this outcome, but it's making me think that there's something else that you want. What is, now that you've had a chance to share all of that, what's coming up for you of what would really make a difference for you in that area? Right? And keep redirecting them back to the focus. And there's some clients, that they just keep talking. And then I literally buffer my calendar so I could be on there for 40 minutes, even though I don't want to be.
One other question.
Yeah.
Does it make sense, since you just mentioned you typically don't interrupt people? Would it make sense then that you don't give any sort of type of disclaimer at the beginning of the session, or you don't say, if I need to interrupt, how would you like me to do that? You don't do anything like that then?
I never had to. It's not bad to do that. Um, I just, the style that I have is more like conversational. So it's never like I let them talk. But if I see that it's like 10 minutes and they're still talking and I haven't gotten them anywhere, then I feel okay to just be like, hey, hold on a second.
Okay,
And that's
thank you.
usually how I do it. Yeah. But if you're more comfortable with being like, look, there's going to be some time where I might interrupt you, like, then if you need to say that, go ahead and do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's whatever works for you and works for them. So the same is true if the topic is too small, right? So usually you're going to get a topic that's too big, but sometimes you're going to get a topic that's too small and you're able to complete it really quickly. So the way that I like to do that, there's two ways. One, if a topic is so big or they have more than one topic they want to talk about, I make them choose what that looks like, right? I will tell them, okay, so we may not have enough time to get through all of these or through all of this. Tell me something that's really urgent for you right now that you'd like to start with. And then if we have the opposite, where we need to, as Cheryl says, chunk up, right? And we'll get up to that, but chunk up meaning you finished before time. Then I'd like to be like, well, that's awesome. We have more time. What else is there that you'd like to talk about? And if there isn't something that they, if there isn't something, then I will start prompting them with like different areas of life or getting even more specific in the topic that we just like talked about. And then if they're like, you know what, there's really nothing else that I want to talk about, then be like, okay, well, do you want to complete the session or do you want to, like, what else is there? And if they have nothing else, then I just let them go. And it's up to you whether or not, like, if it's a 15-minute session, it's up to you if you want to gift them another session. Does that make sense? But most of the time, people will have something else they want to talk about. Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So there's a couple of examples. We talked about that. So chunking up. We know, hold on, let me see. All right, so I'm going to stop share. One of the exercises is you have a client that shows up on your call and they have a really broad goal of improving their communication skills. How do you help narrow down or chunk down this topic? How would you start?
Well, I would actually ask, what does communication look like to you? And I'm thinking in terms of maybe we could look at verbal, non-verbal, personal communication, or is it at work communication? So,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, great. Christine, anything else come up for you around communication?
Yeah, I'd probably ask them, what is prompting this change to begin with? The interest in this change to begin with, because it would give me some knowledge as to specifically what they need to have changed.
Yeah. So what's the truth in that area right now? Right?
Mhm.
In a way? Yeah. And then what happens if you had somebody that is feeling they're just focused on feeling nervous about an upcoming presentation? How would you chunk up the topic regarding by connecting detail to a larger goal or value? So they're just nervous with a presentation.
I don't know.
Well, I'm thinking in terms of their judgments? What is the root of the fear? What is the root of the nervousness? Is it unpreparedness? Didn't have enough time, or is it insecurity, which is a whole.
Yeah. And it's also, right, like, so questions like, so what has you be nervous? Right? Why are you nervous? Like, I hate a why question, but what has you nervous? Right? What is it about the presentation that has you anxious? Right? And like go through that of like, are you prepared? Are you all that? But it's the same, it's similar to then getting to like, okay, are you looking at perfectionism, right? Are you looking to be like, what are they not, where are they not confident? Like, is it a confidence issue? Is it a perfectionism? Is it, right? Like that's also in that. Or is it preparedness, like you said? Like, what is it? So knowing that those are three possible scenarios and it could be something totally different. Oh, I hate being in front of people. I haven't, I'm afraid to public speaking, right? Then, okay, well, what is it about public speaking that you like? Well, actually, then my boss is going to be in the crowd and I don't, right? Like, so we want to we're kind of narrowing it down, but we're going up the ladder on it. Does that make sense?
Nope, not one bit.
Okay. So
I might just have to keep reviewing this area. I got the chunking down easily, but the chunking up, I think, is where I'm getting lost, and
yeah.
I can't quite get there in my head what that looks like, or
Okay.
even the purpose, really.
Yeah. So part of, yeah.
May I say something?
Yeah.
Christine, I felt it's kind of what happened to us Tuesday. You came in and we thought it was just going to be dog training, which seems like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. So it quickly seemed like, oh, it's going to be a 10-minute conversation and we're going to be at the end of. So I think chunking up might be the word that feels like what, but I think by being present and by, just allowing your client to go deeper, it will chunk up on its own. It'll happen because why do people come for coaching? They come for coaching because they are more aware than the person who is not interested in coaching. So often by just creating the space and asking the question, but what does that mean to you? It will load it. That does that make a little bit more sense?
Well, I think my confusion then lies with where is the chunking up taking place in the session? I mean, because I'm originally looking at it as it's taking place during the coaching agreement. And how long is the coaching agreement? I felt like the chunking up between you and I came in the middle of the session. You know what I mean? So I think that's where my confusion is lying right now.
Got it. Okay. So say somebody shows up and they're like, hey, I really just want to get an exercise routine down. Or one of the things I really want to do is I want to run a 5K and I don't know how to start. Okay, well, let's get through it. Right. And so you just go through the motions and you get them to running a 5K. You have a plan. Okay, well, what I want you to do is, day one, run a minute, walk a minute, run a minute, walk a minute.
Mhm.
And then I want you to add every 2 days, I want you to add 30 seconds. And then eventually you're going to be to 3 miles and you're good. Right. And so that took you about not even 10 minutes to do. You have another 20-minute session, right? 20 minutes more in your session. So you're like, okay, so I want to ask you a question. You know, what's your interest in wanting to run the marathon or run a 5K? Well, I want to feel that I want to get healthier. Well, that's really great. So what had you, have that awareness? Well, I just realized that like I'm not as good shape as I used to be. Well, what did you do in the past that used to get you into shape? Oh, well, I used to do CrossFit a lot. And then I also, I meal planned a lot. Well, what does your meal planning look like now? Oh, I'm pretty good at it, but I probably could use some help. Well, how would you improve on that now? Well, part of my problem is that my husband always brings in junk food inside the house. Okay, so what is it like for you to have all that junk food in your house? Well, it's awful because blah, 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 blah. Well, why do you not like, what is it about the junk food that really has you be upset that he brings it in there? Well, I know I can't control myself, but then my children are eating it too. And I'm really upset because like, then we have this whole household that they sit there and they eat Cheetos every day instead of having the fruit that's on the counter. Well, what is that like for you to know that your kids are eating Cheetos all the time instead of the fruit? Do you see how like you're going up and eventually what you're trying to get them to, even though you're not really trying to get them anywhere, but the ultimate goal is for them to recognize that health is more important. And the whole reason why they want to run the 5K is for them to have the awareness that they just want their entire family to be healthier. Right? As opposed to them showing up being like, I just want to be healthy. And then you narrowing it down and then they decide they want to run, you sign
Mhm.
up for a 5K. You're going
So really, chunking up can really come at any point in the coaching session.
yeah.
Okay, we're good now. Thank you.
Okay. Right. So it's just like understanding the value.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, the other part of this then, as we are a, um, as this course is based on emotional intelligence, is using emotional intelligence in getting your coaching session agreement. So part of what we want to do is, as you're aware, the emotional intelligence will have us recognize and understand why certain topics are important for our client, their emotional state, and it allows us to tailor our session to meet their needs, right? And we're going to do it really effectively because we're present with them and what they're dealing with, right? So we do this through empathetic engagement, meaning that we are recognizing and we're able to really get present to what our client is dealing with. So when we understand what emotional state they're in, we're able to then have a conversation with them about it. Right? So we can deal with it. We could deal with their emotions and we could get present to them and then ask more thought-provoking questions that has them get even more present to them. And they feel heard, they feel valued, right? So we want to make sure that that's the outcome, right? We want to make sure that we get that connection. And a lot of times this is something that we are not doing purposely, meaning us being present with them, being present with their emotions is going to have us intuitively ask the next question because we can feel what they're feeling, right? So we want to use our intuition and we want to use it for us to feel when is there something that comes up that we need to explore more? So from this point on, I want you guys to really let go of like what next question you're going to ask and really go with the letting it flow. Your intuition is going to automatically give you what next best question there is. And sometimes the question comes out of left field. Your mouth is moving and your brain finally catches up to what you've actually asked. Does that make sense? Have you guys, right? So that is your intuition saying, this is what really is needed in this space right now. This is what the client really needs. So it'll give you the opportunity to ask really great questions that's going to move your client forward because you're really present to what they're dealing with. And the more that you're able to let go, and the more that you're able to just be present, the more your intuition can show up. So if you're sitting there and your client is talking and something keeps coming up and you feel like, I need to ask about this, you need to ask about it, right? So the worst thing that we do is having a thought and then be like, no, that's too personal for me to ask. I don't want to do that. Because that's the one question that is going to open it up for them. So you have to have trust in yourself that what you're about to ask is appropriate and will move them forward. So please, if you remember anything about our time together, like, don't censor yourself and don't feel that there's an appropriate time in the call to ask a question. If you get on a coaching call with your client and 5 seconds in, a burning question is there for you, and you feel it's too soon to ask it, you've just done them a disservice. And I've seen it happen time and time and time again in sessions, right? Like, I do this all day long, right? So like, I've seen students do it, and when I ask, I'm like, so I saw you there that you kind of wanted to go one way, but you went a different way. You went a safer route. Why did you do that? I didn't feel that I could ask that question. So I'm telling you guys, they're paying you money, so you ask the question. Otherwise, they'd go talk to their friends. Right? So don't censor yourself is ultimately what that intuition is trying to tell you. So when you have a high EQ, it means your intuition is going to be high. Right? And our intuition is what has us be successful with our clients. Like, our empathy will get us there with them. And if we just allow ourselves to flow, and again, it's going to be coming from here and not from here, right? If you're coming from here and you're just being present with them, your intuition is going to take over and you're going to ask some really, really great questions that they need you to do that. So, high empathy means high intuition. High emotional intelligence means high intuition. So the more you get, and again, I personally feel like they can all evolve, right? The more time you spend with people, the more your EQ and your intuition goes up. So that's what we want. And what we want to also do is we want to adapt our communication so that way whoever we're talking to, they get the most out of our time together, right? So meaning there's certain ways you guys know me well enough to know that I'm pretty straightforward. So my expectation for you to talk to me is just be straight, as opposed to someone who needs it softened a bit, right? Like, how you formulate your questions is going to be dependent on the person that you're talking to. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Right? And also we want to regulate the emotional tone of our session, meaning We want to manage the overall emotions. We can't coach into somebody who's like just won the lottery and jumping off their seat. And we can't coach into a session of somebody who's like really crying and like, right? We need to support them in getting to a steady level where they can even hear us. Right? Because sometimes people won't even hear you depending on their emotional state. So if they're really anxious, right? In order for us to be productive in our call, we have to calm them down. And the same is true for vice versa, right? And then we want to reflect back, and we want to do it with sensitivity. So we want to provide feedback that's empathetic and constructive. And we want to focus on building our clients' confidence. So once we do that, we'll get their trust. And also, we're going to reflect back a lot in our session of like, what I hear you say is this, what's coming up for me is this. How does that sound to you? Right? Or like at the end of our session, we're going to reflect back. At the beginning of the session, you wanted to talk about A, B, and C, and you said you wanted to have D. What we got to is blah, blah, blah. We don't need to have a laundry list. You just want to have the essence of what was uncovered. Right? Meaning, at the beginning of the call, you said you wanted to talk about running a 5K and you wanted to have a plan on how to do that. And what we really discovered is that you're really confronted with your husband's eating habits. You feel that your family isn't as healthy because of it. And what your value really is for you all to be very healthy and live a happy life together and, be in communication and collaborative. How does that sound to you? Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Right? So we don't need to go back in every little detail. You're actually going to lose your client if you give them too much of what you've talked about. Does that make sense? And then let's see what else is there. Practice client's emotional needs. So then there's a framework, right? Setting the stage. And this is the cheat sheet, the framework, right? So there's specific questions that are associated. So Christine, if you don't feel like your cheat sheet is done, this is a great page. On chapter 5, page 5 and 6. These are all your questions that you would need. Okay, so it's all laid out for you with different questions that are possible. And the one thing that for your guys to do is to just review it, make sure you're comfortable, and also then rewrite these questions so they're your language if you don't like the ones that are here. But any questions around that? And was this helpful?
Yeah, it was helpful. And we also got that framework at chapter 1.
Oh, good.
It is in the beginning of chapter 1. That's I don't know if they're completely the same or not. I haven't compared them, but
Oh, I'm sure they
yes,
are.
this was very helpful, especially with the chunking up portion and making sure that, if we had questions, they were answered and we have a clear understanding of what we need and taking the time to help us with that. And thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So I feel it's a really appropriate conversation for us to have right before you're going to coach in a little bit. So why don't we take a break? Let's come back at 2:30 and then we'll have our conversation. Or actually, what time is it? Let's come back at 2:30 and then
Okay.
we'll have our coaching session. We'll break it down and then we'll answer any questions that you guys might have. How's that sound?
Cool.
Okay. I'll see you guys in a bit.
Okay.
All right. All right. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
You're gonna be fine. You're not walking a plank, I promise.
I'm always like this our last time I was like this as well. The first coaching class, and then after that we were all good. So
Okay, good.
it's just
So
dipping the toes back in again.
beautiful. So then this is the other thing too. If you're like this here, you're going to be like this with your first client. So use this as a way for you to shake it off.
Okay.
Right? Like just start paying attention to what comes up for you, what this looks like, because y'all know each other. It's going to be similar and a little bit more intense, maybe is a good word, when it's a paid client. You're going to put a lot more pressure on yourself because you're like, they just paid me, right? So
Yeah, I think I just need to deal with like 15 people first who aren't paid,
yeah.
and then I'll be good to go.
So you know what? Go on your social media tonight or get in your emails tonight and literally create that.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I actually have the ability to do that with 25,000 different women right now.
Beautiful.
I already set that up
Oh, good.
a while ago, so we're good to go.
All right, awesome.
Okay.
Okay, so it is 2:31. You're gonna have you range 25 minutes to 35 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
So the floor is yours. You
Perfect. Hi, Rita. How are you
Hi,
today?
Christine. I'm okay. Thank you.
How are you feeling coming into our session?
Um, I'm anxious and I'm actually stressed being here.
Oh, okay. How about we just take a minute and just breathe for a minute, take a couple deep breaths. Let yourself calm down a little bit. Let me know when you're feeling a little more relaxed.
Okay.
Feeling a little more relaxed and present here now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm just gonna take a minute to let you know that our session today is confidential. It is very judgment-free. All right. And I'm going to take a few notes. If I look down and I'm silent for a minute, I'm still here, present with you. I'm just writing some things down and keep myself on track here. Is all that okay with you?
Yes, that's great.
Okay. And I can share the notes with you at the end if you would like. So, perfect. So, what are you looking to discuss in our session today?
There's something that I've noticed that I feel I really have to address. I'm stuck. I always do this with my coaching. I get riled up when I start, and then when it kind of gets to the point where it's like serious, and I'm talking about let's get clients, let's go full time, let's make a living out of this. I freeze. I literally freeze, and I start picking at everything that's not good enough. And in the end, I'm like, ah, yeah, you see, not good enough. No, no, we will never be able to make a career out of coaching. And then I just go back to the small trickling part of one or two clients, tired of it. I'm tired of it. I really want to break free and I really want to just go into the next phase of my life, which is I'm a coach full time.
Okay. All right. So I'm hearing a lot of emotion behind what you're sharing with me right now. Um, and what fear do you have going full time?
I, I think judgment. Um, I live in a very tiny farming community. And literally, when my kids were 3 years old, something like that, everybody had together this little music lessons. But it was basically just an hour to keep the kids busy, mom sanity. So they call it music lessons, but it's basically just getting together, playing a little bit of music with the kids and drinking tea. So that was the first time that I really tried to pursue my career. And so I got there in the little click of our time. And then at some point, we had a party, one of the kids' birthday party, about 6 or 8 months, down the line. Um, this one boohoo of the town said to me, "Oh, I saw this person's car standing outside your practice. What did they want to see you about?" Um, I don't particularly like her. She's a gossip. Um, and I have to say, I didn't handle it great. So basically, what I did, I said to them, "Listen, I'm a trained professional, and I do feel that gossiping is just not something that I'm interested." And I said to them, "I think I must excuse myself from today's party," because I was so shocked. I was so upset. I was so, I don't want to be part of that little clique where somebody asks you, "Why does a client see you?" You know? And I realized it wasn't probably the greatest way to handle it, but I don't know. I don't like gossiping. I I really honor my clients, and I really feel their safety is most important to me. So I just wanted to exit. That's it. And I did. I did. I left. I just couldn't, And now what I've found is that that was a significant thing. And I can't help myself but to think, if the locals see me on Facebook advertising what I'm doing, what are they thinking? This lady is crazy, man. We don't like her. She's, I don't know. So, and I think that is holding me back big time.
Okay. So we're going to be discussing today what's holding you back from being a massive success in your coaching business and feeling competent and being able to really just jump forward and make this your full time. How accurate does that sound?
Yes, yes, definitely very accurate.
Okay. So that's what we're looking to accomplish by the end of the session. Would that be?
Yeah, yeah.
How about you reframe for me what you're looking to accomplish by the end of the session?
Maybe what we could do is just, because I think it's a very large topic. So I think even if we can just say these are the 3 areas, or just give me a clearer picture. I just want clarity what it is, but I don't think it's a single thing. so that I know when we go away from the session, what do I need to go work on even deeper or more thoroughly, maybe. Yeah.
So I'm hearing you saying you're looking for clarity and maybe to focus on one area that you could find clarity on to move forward.
Yes. Yeah. Valid. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay. In terms of success for this session, how are you going to know that we've met our goal?
I knew you were going to ask this question. um, I think it's going to be a measure of emotion. If I think currently I feel alerted, I literally feel uh, because I can't understand the picture. So it's this blurry mess. And I'm literally going to measure it by on a scale of 0 to 10. Okay, so right now clarity is probably around a 2. And I will be very happy if we could just move that up to 5. That's okay. We don't have to go for this shoot for the moon and the stars tonight.
Okay. So we're going to shoot for a 5 from a 2 where you're currently at. Okay. And I'll check in throughout and see if we're moving closer to that goal as we go through this. So I just wanted to clarify earlier you had mentioned 3 areas, and I don't know if you were able to visualize them in your head, but you talked about 3 areas. And what would those 3 areas be?
Oh gosh, I don't recall. I don't know.
Okay.
Can't remember.
So when you speak about clarity, what specifically are you looking for clarity about?
The freeze. I'm
Sorry, I
freezing.
missed that.
The freeze. So I freeze when I think, here we go. We're going full-time coaching. And that literally means I battle to open the coaching contract. That's part of our homework. I'm like, keep myself busy, distract myself. Listen, I've got enough going on as it is. But I think for me, I've noticed this last 3 days, I think definitely there's something about avoiding or freezing. I like the word freezing because that's how it feels to me, that I'm frozen and I'm stuck. And I can't get into this coaching business. So I enjoy the study. I'm always studying, but I'm never doing anything, everything that I've studied before. And I think, oh yeah, that's it. So I never have the confidence to do something with everything that I'm studying. So my husband is just like, oh, we're studying again. What? Why? When is your studies going to start bringing in some money, honey? You're paying, you're costing us a lot. So yeah, again, I think it's why am I so stuck?
What would it look like, or should I say, what would it feel like if you weren't stuck?
Calmness. maybe a way forward. How? How? And probably connection. You know,
You mentioned that your husband was alluding to, when are you going to get into action and stop just studying? And so when you think of action, what do you think you can do to take one step forward?
I think I should really just email Cheryl. She's my business coach as well, and start with um, in the email, maybe just connecting with her and just explaining to her what I have done. It's not as if I've done nothing. Um, so maybe for my own sanity, to say this is what I've put in place, and then basically scheduling the follow-up call so that we can have our second session. I'm terrified. Again, it comes back to the judging. I don't want to. I don't want to disappoint her. Is the word I'm looking for. Sorry, English is my second language, so often I struggle to express myself in English. Yeah.
So I hear you saying that you don't want to disappoint someone else. How much of this has to do with disappointing yourself?
Everything. Everything. And I keep waiting and I keep wondering when cystic fibrosis is going to pop up again. And just say, hi, I'm here. You need to deal with me as well. So let's just put you back in hospital for 2 weeks and make sure that you can't work for another month or whatever. And just that disappointment, just that almost like that I'm waiting for that voice that says, you see, I told you, told you you wouldn't be able to do this.
Hmm. What's another way of thinking about this that has a more positive outcome?
I think, well, first of all, when I do this, not if, when I do this, um, I'm going to be more fulfilled. Um, I really don't like working for my husband in the depot. Paperwork. Uh, it's dealing with a lot of stuff that I don't have control over, companies and policies, and it's just so mundane and so I can make it differently. It's for my personal fulfillment. And then secondly, for my children, I stopped my whole life. I literally gave up my health. My doctor said to me, either you're going to have these twins and they're going to take away your health, or you're going to abort them and you're going to be healthy. And I chose to have them. And oof, I think there's a very loaded thing for me to kind of say to them, you didn't take your mum's being like they predicted. Um, so for the children's sake, they're finishing school next year and then they're going to go off. And I want to show them that you can literally, sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer than other times, but you can mold your own future. You're never too old or too stuck. Um, I think more positively, um, it'll definitely bring a new dynamic between me and my husband. Uh, it will really be amazing when I can actually say to him, see, I'm coaching full time. You have somebody for the depot full time. I don't have to do this anymore for you. And it's just relief when I think about that. Big relief. So, um, yeah, I think with those three reframing reasons, there's enough to there's enough to focus on and use that as the fuel.
I just want to take a minute to applaud you in when you were sharing your story about your twins and having them and your health and the strength that that you obviously have. Um, and I also just want to take a minute and check in with you. And you seem to be, you were smiling so much, talking about that and what I would suggest or thought, what I understood might have been a real elation at the thought of coming into your own as a coach. You really lit up. It was so impressive to see. I wanted to check in quickly because we're going to be out of time soon, and see right now where you're at. Are we moving closer from our 2 to our 5, and see where else we need to move with this.
Yeah, what I am getting out of this, the clarity is definitely one. I will have to look at um, the hometown and the connections. Secondly, visit family relations and is there something that's causing the freeze and how to use them. I think that is going to be the best tool that you help me with. How to use them to propel me forward. Um, and then I think the third thing that's really coming up for me is judgment, and I'll have to go sit with that and see where does that come from. um, and how to work with it, and how to reframe that. And the fourth thing, um, almost, sure, I don't know quite how to express it, but almost like permission, permission for a change to do my thing. I'm always taking care of the family. I'm always making sure everybody is sorted and homework and runs and ups and downs. And oh, my father-in-law is also in the mix of taking care of. Uh, and I think with that permission, there is there's guilt. There's guilt because am I selfish? So I think that's the fourth thing I'm writing down first. um, yeah, I think the clarity is definitely uncovered for things I could chill and go look at and unpack a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, would there be anything else that you feel like you need to do um, to propel yourself forward?
I think it's I honestly I'm coming back to sending Cheryl the email and requesting for our follow-up meeting. For me, that's almost this a significant big thing for me. And if I just say we're going to connect with this and we're going to move forward, almost like all these four things, we're giving permission. Um, I think it's a big thing, but it's something that I want to do.
Okay. And when it comes to emotionally giving yourself permission to be able to do what you need to do for you, um, what's one step in that area that you can do to get you out of that current state that you're in, that comfort zone?
I think I must commend myself for how far I came and just acknowledge, um, all these layers and layers um, and literally, I'm going to make a list of everything that I have done already. Um, and just to communicate open. I mean, I said to my kids in past time, I do feel selfish if I can't pick up the phone right now because I'm on a client, a call with clients. But and in the same sentence, I said to them, and I have full confidence that you are okay. You, you can deal with this, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And I think I use the kids, but I need to put in my husband here. I need to put in my father-in-law, and I need to put in the family, and I need to put all the expectations in that as well to trust them also to be okay if I can't be there right now in this moment for them. And it's okay. They can handle it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. All right. So, can you identify any or say how many, if obstacles, could you identify that might get in the way and set you back a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's four things that you said. You know, the hometown, um, family, judgment, and the guilt, mission, happiness. I think those are four things coming up for me.
Okay. And so how do you plan to overcome that?
I am going to put this in my calendar. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take 3 days per category. And I'm just literally going to write what comes up for me. I am going to write what it feels like. I'm going to reframe things that comes up for me. And just journey a little bit with it. I'm just setting time aside to journey with it, um, to a point of clarity and peace.
Okay. All right. So when we came in, your clarity was at a 2. We were looking for a 5. How close did we get to that goal today?
I think actually we moved up to a 6.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And just in closing here, I just wanted to ask you, you had mentioned that you're gonna write about this, you're gonna reframe, you're going to take a journey with some of the obstacles you have, and you were gonna write another list. And with all of this, how confident do you feel that you're gonna follow through with this plan that you have? Scale of 1 to 10.
Probably a 7 because it's going to get
Probably a
tough.
what? Sorry.
7.
Okay. Um, all right. And you think you need to feel to tell someone else about your plan to become more accountable?
Yeah, I 2 names are coming up for me, so I'll just have to decide which one do I talk to and to what extent. So, but yeah, great question.
When do you plan on deciding? When do you plan on talking with them?
Mm, yeah. Um. Okay. Tomorrow is one of those incredible days. Um. I think I should put 3 o'clock in my alarm clock for tomorrow.
Okay.
And by 3. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right. What was your biggest takeaway from our session today?
By freezing, I run the risk of not achieving my ultimate passion. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. And what would you like to have seen done differently in this session so we can improve our session for next time?
No, I think it was really a great session.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I applaud you. I celebrate you. And I look really forward in our next session to just recapping your goals of this one and celebrating your successes with you of what we went through in this session.
Thanks, Christine.
Thanks so much for being here with me today, and we will see you next time.
Okay.
All right. Christine, how was that for you?
It was okay. Um, I feel like I was catching myself with closed questions often. So that's something that I will have to work on. And I really felt like I lost myself in digging deep enough with her to uncover what was going on for her. I'm excited though when it comes to I'll practice as I practice, that'll get easier and it will flow better. And I think I did well when it came to getting in a lot of the basic things like the coaching contract and the closing and all those types of things. I think I did well there.
Great. And so what would be something you would do differently next time?
Um, I would definitely do differently. I don't really know how to say it. I felt like it was kind of scattered. I didn't have enough flow. I didn't guide her well enough with those questions that kept her on track. And so I think I would do my best to do better in that area next time.
And what do you think had that, like, created that for you?
I just think that I was really busy listening to her, and that was my focus, and I wasn't really keeping track of, ask this or go back to this, go back to this. I think that's where it happened.
Okay. Um, Overall, what are you most proud of?
Mm, I don't know. I would say sticking with her in where she was at and celebrating her strengths and how impressive she was as an individual.
Hmm. All right. I love that. Rita, how was this for you?
Interesting to hear Christine feel that there wasn't flow or something. I didn't experience it. Um, I was trying not to be too scattered, but I knew this was a scattered session. And I really felt that Christine helped me to bring in the structure. Um, and I didn't feel cut off, which I think
Mhm.
could happen. And I definitely didn't feel pushed
Mhm.
into a certain direction. She was patient enough with just enough of a let's, let's see if we can get direction. I'm
Mhm.
picking up on a direction. How do we follow it? Do we follow it? Um, I felt really safe and I felt really respected.
Yeah, love that. I love that. So, what I loved most about your session, Christine, is how calm you were. You may not have felt that way. You might have been nervous, but what came across was you were very calm. You came across very confident. You provided really good silence, a lot of space. You didn't rush the conversation. you went deep with what she wanted to talk about, what she wanted to have. And then I thought you had some really good questions that like allowed you to keep exploring. One of the things that I loved that you did, you as far as like the competencies, like 4.3, you acknowledged her expression. So like you're like, you were smiling so much when you were talking about your children and coming into your own as a coach. I love that you asked her 5.3, invited client's choice. Like what you kept asking, like what action would you want to take right now? Right? You kept inviting her to keep looking for that. Also, you know, a really great question is like what action could you take that would have you go one step forward? Or you explored her emotions, 6.3, like how much of this is about disappointing yourself? I was like, Christine, I was so proud of you for asking that. And then like you 7.4, questions about expanding your outcome. What's another way that could help with the outcome, right? Like you really, you were with her and like kept asking the questions that you needed to explore and move her forward. Again, using the scale, like what's going to move you from that 2 was really great. So that would be 8.1, exploring the progress. And then the 8.5, post-session activities, like you were asking her, what would you do differently for the next time? Like, what would you want us to do differently? You asked about obstacles, you asked about accountability. And then you celebrated her. So a lot of the competencies you covered, which was really impressive, especially being that you felt unprepared. Right? Like we started this whole session today with you being like, I don't want to do this. I'm dreading it. And so I'm
I
telling you,
didn't.
right? I'm
Yeah.
telling you that if you never improved, you would still be really effective. So like,
Oh,
I want you to really own that and like hear that and embody that your baseline of what you're saying, right? Like this is you saying like, this is like, I'm so bad, this is my worst, is far beyond anybody else's when they just start out. So
oh,
I,
thank God.
I want you to commend yourself for that. And like, you know, as a coach, I personally feel there's always room for improvement. There's always
Mhm,
something that we can get better at. And your
mhm.
baseline right now is pretty darn good. So be proud of yourself on this, for sure.
Thank you. I feel so relieved. Like, oh my gosh. I've been so stressed out. But anyways, what did I need to improve on? There's a lot of that.
Um,
So,
I think the one thing that I would just say is just have fun with it. It's okay to put your personality in it. It's okay for you to like um show people who you are while you're still being the coach, like while we're still keeping, you know, the boundaries, but like have fun with it. Right? Like one thing that and like that's for you to decide what you want that to look like. Like for me, I want my clients to come on the call with me and I want us to laugh and have a good time and still be really effective. So my energy is super positive, it's high energy, and like some people don't like that, right? And I'm also really upfront. So um I want you to explore what you want that to look like for you, and like what kind of a coach do you want to be? So that's the area, like you have the baseline. So now it's like, okay, I got that covered. What do I want it to look like? So if you have to be on a call all day long, what do you want that experience to be like for you? That's my invitation.
okay.
Right. And the rest of everything else, right? And like I said, it's like yoga. There's some days you're going to get on here and you're going to be like, awesome, knocked it out of the park. And other days you're going to be like, that was awful. Right. And that just comes with the territory. So there's going to be a flow to it. So just allow yourself to go through that journey of the ups and downs of it. But I'm super proud, and I'm honored to have been on this call with you today. Knowing where you started and how it ended up, like, it's awesome. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you guys in the last few minutes that we have. Now that the call is over, what would you want to have asked, be asked? Like, what was coming up that maybe you didn't ask? Anything else?
No, nothing is coming up for me. I'm looking at my pictures.
Good. Christine, anything else?
Oh gosh, so much actually. I would have dug much deeper into her fear of judgment,
Yeah.
um, much deeper, and what it looks like to what the absence of that fear looks like, and why judgment has a place in her life to begin with, and those types of fears, and and especially when it came to surrounding the people in her community. I mean, who are they anyways, right? And I would have probably explored more, like, is she working in an online setting, or is she working in a setting where people are coming to her, and especially if it's online, helping her to realize, well, then those people definitely don't matter. Their judgment doesn't matter, and just the fear in general, and how that fear is what's holding her back with her job.
And what had you not asked that?
Pardon?
What had you not ask about that?
Because I was trying so hard to just, because I took in what you said actually. And when we were not in session, right, and we left, I took in what you said, and I thought, you know what? Just go with the flow. And so this is the very first time I ever went with the flow,
Awesome.
ever.
So proud. I'm so
So,
proud.
and I thought, you know what? I'm probably going to forget things, and I'm probably going to, and it didn't feel like, for me, like I was really structured, and so I missed out on some things, and some things came up that she mentioned, and I meant to touch back on them, and I wrote, fear and fear of judgment, but I was just working on just being present with her, and trying it for the first time.
Great.
And I thought, you know what, whatever happens happens, and I'm okay with that, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
So it worked out okay, but as I practice and move more through this, I'll get better at that, and it feels so much better doing that, instead of coming from this clinical, I've got to meet this and this and this and this and this. It was just so much better for me.
Good. And this is the thing, right? So knowing that you can do that and you can go with the flow, like I was saying with my notes in the column, like, that little column to the side, right? That's where I write in big letters and I highlight fear. So when I have a time, when there's a break and I'm about to ask a next question, I usually be like, you know what? You said something earlier that I want to revisit. Tell me more about this fear that you have. And then you could reintroduce it, even if it's past,
Yeah, I can.
right?
And I didn't consider that. I guess I was, as she's bringing up something new, I'm
Hmm?
trying to stay with the new stuff she's bringing up, and not revisiting the old stuff that she brought up. And I think a lack of experience has me unsure of how to bring it up, when it was really just as simple as what you just said.
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? Like, and And a lot of times we have to remember that our client is going to shy away from anything that's like really deep for them. And it takes us being like, I don't want to step over this. Like, that's the other way that I say it. Like, there's something that you said that I don't want to step over. Like, tell me a little bit more about this fear that you have going on.
And I
And
wanted to
see
ask
if
you something else. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no. The only thing I want to say is see if they'll play in it, because sometimes they will not open up. And then the lack of opening up is either they don't trust you, you don't have that rapport with them, that they feel that it's a safe space yet, or they don't want to admit it to themselves. They don't want to talk about it. So guys, don't take it personally if they're like, no. And like, if they shut down, if they end up shutting down and they don't want to play in that arena, be like, okay, so tell me now what's present for you? Like, and go back to the last thing that they said. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a dance with them, especially if it's something really confronting. But that's where like that column for me is like questions that I want to ask, things that they keep saying, specific words. And I literally have a pen and a highlighter. So that way I could look at my page and I don't have to look for it. I could just see the highlighted word that I want to go back to.
Yeah. And
And
I wanted to mention too, I held back at one point, and I
Hmm.
wished I hadn't held back.
About
Um,
around
well, when I forget what it was that when I talked about her strength, and then she started crying, and I wanted to say to her, you know, where is this emotion originating from right now? And
and
I
you
didn't.
and you could even say like what's there for you.
Yeah, like I didn't. I held back, and I should have. It and I think, why did I hold back?
Yeah,
Like,
why?
what was that for me? And it was because I was scared of being too confronting.
Well, there it is. So that's a really great example about your intuition.
Yeah, so
Yeah, the fear and then that is really like, and it also takes courage for us as coaches to be like, okay, I'm going to ask it anyways, regardless of how they react.
well, and I've never, when I was with WCI before, in all the classes, I never ever had a coach like you
Oh,
ever just do it, or just be yourself, or just let it flow, or any of these things I've never heard. This is my first time.
I love that. And I'm glad that I
So,
gave that to you.
so it's really speaking to me um a tremendous amount, because I'm very much like that. And you remind me a lot of me in that sense, that I'm a very in your face type of person, and here's where it's at. And I just always felt like I had to suppress that part of myself to be a coach.
Yeah.
And really, that fear in me asking her that question, that's what it was, that suppression. And
Okay.
it's very exciting. I don't have to do that. Thank you. I really feel like your presence here in this course has really impacted me.
Oh, I love that. So game on, right, guys? Like when I always remind myself, like they are paying me really good money because this is their life. So if I was on the other side of it, how would I want people to do that? Would I want them to tiptoe around me, or would I want them to just be straight and like get to the source? Because I've
Yeah.
had really great coaches that have me like bawling and like, oh my God, or like jumping out of my seat, like I got to get off the call because I got to get into action, right?
Yeah.
And like my ADD kicks in where I'm like, I don't want to forget how I'm feeling. Let me go, right? Or I've had really bad coaches where I'm like, they don't give a shit. Like, why am I paying these people? And I would always go for the people that get me like pissed off and confronted. And then I'm like, you're right. You're right.
Mhm.
So I thank you for that acknowledgement, but like you did it. And I'm proud of you for recognizing that like you limited yourself there.
I limited her.
Yes. Great way to put it.
That's what I really did. I limited Rita when I did that.
Right. And so her experience is totally different right now.
Exactly.
But that's
So
good
that's
news.
very sad.
And that's why we do this, right? So like next time when you're coaching Rita, you're going to have this awareness. So this is the thing too that's coming up for me, is that even if the conversation flows in a way that you're not able to get to that fear question, the next time your client shows up and it comes up again, you're going to be like, look, this isn't the first time you've said this.
Yes.
And I really just want to visit that with you. Like, what's there for you? Right. And that's when we talk about patterns, recognizing the pattern, like being present enough that you see this thing over and over again. I have a client right now who's literally doing the Camino. Do you know what I'm talking about? That walk.
No.
It's a walk in Portugal and Spain. It's like a spiritual walk. And
Okay.
she was so afraid to go alone that I'm tracking her on Facebook, right? And she was afraid to go alone. She like scheduled everything she needed to schedule. And our last coaching session before she went there is that I'm like, look, like you're doing this so you can be with yourself. And she slipped into an old pattern where she's like latching on to the people. And yesterday she's on day 6 or 7. And yesterday she was finally alone. And then when she found other people, she latched back on. So I ask you, when I text her in a little bit, because I know she's, we have a time difference, what do you think I'm going to ask her about? I'm going to be like, okay, how was your time alone? Right. And okay, I see that you latched back on to Margarita or whatever her name was. What's that like for you now? Right. And like get her, because she still has about another 3 days left of an opportunity for her to like really be present for herself, because she's latching on to these people because she doesn't want to deal with the feelings that are coming up. Right. And she does this in relationships everywhere.
You're just going to be confronting like that, eh? And just get right in her face and just say, so.
Because that's what she's paying me for.
Interesting. Huh. I always felt like I had to pussyfoot around things a lot more than that.
No, but I don't hide it either in my consults, like we were talking about last session. Like I tell people, I'm like, look, I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader, and there's nobody that's going to go above and beyond than what I'm going to provide you. But there's going to be times where you may not like me, but I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. Do we have an agreement on that? And they accept it or they don't. But most of the time, every single client has been like, that's totally fine. I want you to do that. But they're aware of it. I don't hide it.
Well, I just wanted to take a minute and say, Rita, thank you for your grace on that call today. I really felt like I always feel actually like coaches make it easy, because I think coaches have such a sense of awareness already that there's, I just feel like you made that so much easier on me than it needed to be. But thank you. And I hope you're feeling okay.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
No, it's amazing. Thank you for working with me.
And guys, like, so we're not going to see each other for a little bit. I don't come back until October. I was actually supposed to be with you guys next week, but we've had a switch in schedule. So, you're going to be with Holly. Holly's great. But I want to just invite you guys to just like be open through this process and like continue to keep pushing forward and be open with each other, right? Like take the session seriously. Think about that you're getting thousands of dollars of coaching right now, and look at each other as just being clients for each other, right? Like this is what it's going to be like you guys are going to be coaching each other. Like it's going to be a continuous thing that every week you guys are going to meet and you're going to have a coaching session. So like take it on that even though you're being observed, like have it be that you're actual clients for each other and like use it to your benefit. So whether you want to talk about your coaching, whether you want to talk about your business, whether or not, right? Like whatever that is that comes up for you guys, like take it on.
Do you know what I find though? And this is what happened the last time, and I thought I'm going to address it this course.
Mhm.
She says, do get 10 things and we have to write them all down that we want to get coached on. I can't get coached on 2 things every week and actually take it seriously. And you know what I mean?
Buddy
Like
coaching.
there's
Yeah.
I can't, but I mean, even like here in this, I mean, she coached me recently. She's
Mhm.
coached me on 2 different things. Well, now
Mhm.
I'm actually actioning those things in my life, and
Great.
I can't action all these things at one time. So how do I reconcile that?
Then you could even talk about what you're dealing with. Okay, so last time we talked about blah 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 blah, and what I find myself going through now is I'm trying to put these in place, but this is what I'm struggling with. Right?
But
Like,
I'm not struggling with those things, but I would struggle if I had to add more
okay,
coaching sessions about different subjects on
yeah,
top of it. I would struggle then.
yeah, yeah, I get that.
So I don't really know what to do about that.
And I know at some point, I don't know if the schedule is out. I haven't seen it.
I have it, yeah, right here on my wall.
And then sometimes what Cheryl will do is she'll add other people. Like I'll come in and you'll coach me or something like that. So
Yeah, okay.
if that's a need, if you guys are struggling, then just maybe request that. I don't know if she'll kill me for saying that, but it's been done.
I I won't kill you. She'll be great with. No, she's already told us that we're having other people coming in to
Perfect.
coach.
Perfect.
So I just didn't really take her that seriously. I forgot.
Yeah. No, there will be other people. Um,
Righty.
okay. Well, this is time. Do you guys need anything before we leave?
No.
All right, awesome. Good job. Strong work. Really super proud to be with you. And you need anything? I'm always around. So please feel free to reach out.
How do we do that?
You should have my email. If not,
Do we have your email? How do we have her email, Rita?
No, we don't have your email.
oh, I don't know. Find
No,
me,
we don't have your email.
yeah, find me on social. I'm on Instagram or whatever, and then we could go from there.
Okay,
Only if you
thanks.
want to, no stress, no pressure. And Cheryl is also around, so please ask her, use her as a resource for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.